Hey everybody! So today's video topic is going to be about invoking deities and my thoughts and opinions and stand on invoking deities. I just want to start off by saying that I am not a devotee of any specific deity. So like some people might follow Hecate or Isis or Flora or Nyx or Bridget or something like that. Um, in my spiritual beliefs, I don't follow a specific deity. I do recognize them. I do think that they exist in one way or another, but I don't necessarily think that they're their own separate entity. I believe that everything is all part of the same energy, and any divine energy is all one. Um, so even though I will recognize male and female aspects because I do believe in duality, I do believe also that they are part of the same energy. They are part of the same entity. I'm not saying that I don't believe that Hecate or Isis exist, but I just believe they exist in a different way than most people would. Anyways, but I still do believe that you can invoke those specific aspects of the energy that we call the divine. I do believe that you can take those aspects into you and not just the whole divine. And what I mean by invoke, in case anybody, I don't know, is not pagan or is not familiar with it or whatever, if I just need some clarification, when I say invoke, when I think of invoking a deity, I think of taking all of that, the aspects of whatever you're trying to do, so whatever deity that you want. So if you believe that each deity or each divine being is separate, then you're taking the whole of that god or goddess into you. If you believe that everything is as one as I do, you're taking that specific part of the energy into you. And basically kind of just becoming one with the divine. So, my thoughts on this. I think it's a very scary thing, and it's very tricky and very powerful, and I don't think it's something that you should be playing I don't think it's something that you should be playing around with. I don't think that it's something that you should just wake up and decide, hey, you know what, today I'm going to invoke Hecate. Just like that. I'm going to take her into me, the full force of the god or the goddess. I think a lot of young people or people who are inexperienced or just, I don't even know, they make the mistake that, oh yeah, I can just call upon whatever and they'll just come to me and I can do this and I'll be all magical and whatever, and they don't really think about the consequences and the repercussions that that could have. This is, divinity is a big power. That is a huge thing. This is everything that's unexplainable in the world. This is what you pray to. This is what anybody who has faith in the world, which is pretty much everybody, is looking up to, whether you are Christian, whether you're pagan, faith, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Islamic, whether you're Hindu, or whatever. This is all the same. You have 7 billion people praying and worshiping this energy, God, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of power and a lot of belief behind that. So you have to understand the scale of what you're dealing with here. This isn't just you. This isn't just, you and a couple of your friends, hanging out in the woods and, dancing around naked. This isn't that. The magnitude of what you're doing when you're invoking a certain deity, then that's powerful. And you really need to understand what can go wrong. When I started out as a Wiccan, so I was a devotee, I guess you could say, of the goddess Bridget. She's a maiden goddess. She's associated with Imbolc, and if you're not 100% sure, and she's Celtic or something like that. Point being is that I didn't really know what I was doing, and we found this thing on the internet that was invoking her power or something like that. And me and my friends that I practiced with at the time, and we're like, oh yeah, we should do it. So we reworded it because some of it didn't make sense. We took some parts out, and we did our circle. We sat at a table. We drew, this was a big deal. We hadn't really done rituals before. We hadn't really done a lot before. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we know that we wanted to do this. And so we decided to, invoke this goddess. And it was scary because when you're calling in like whatever energy, um, only like one person can do it at a time, I feel. Like especially if you're in a big group, like because it's just more intense. It's meant to be like a solitary act. Usually, if you do it like in a group or in a coven or in an open circle, um, like the high priest or priestess will call whatever deity you're worshiping or praying to into them, and that they will speak. That deity will speak through the high priest or priestess or something along those lines. So, um, I guess you could say I was kind of the leader of the pack, even though like none of us knew what we were doing. So I did that, and honestly, it was so scary. It felt like time stopped. I couldn't breathe, and it was terrifying. And I didn't believe what was happening because up until that point, I wasn't fully aware of the power. And I think that was kind of like my wake up call. I think that was kind of like the divine being like, okay, you need to just calm down and you need to understand the magnitude of what you're dealing with. And that really snapped me into reality. That really made me realize, okay, you know what? This isn't, like, I'm not screwing around. Like, this is not something to screw with. And I really need to be careful. When I did that, like, I honestly, like, there was a second there, like, I thought, like, I was just gonna lose it. Because while I was reading this, like, spell or chant or like invocation, whatever you want to call it, like I could feel my fingertips are started to pulse, and it felt kind of cool, like felt powerful. I felt empowered at first, and it was really strong, and I was like completely like mesmerized, and just I wanted to keep going. I kept reading, and that pulsing, like it started in my like extremities and then started moving up into my core until eventually what I felt was like a tightening around my throat, and it was like I was short of breath and I couldn't hear it. My pulse was just going like I can hear it in my ears, and my heart was pounding, and it started to kind of get scary at that point. And then I started just like I heard voices in my head faintly. I didn't really make anything out. I heard the clock was ticking. Like it felt like the clock was like the loudest thing in the world, and heard like water droplets. The wind picked up outside apparently, and I didn't notice, but my friends like wrote it down. Well, I was in this like almost trance-like state, but I still was aware of what was going on. I was still able to communicate what I was feeling, and I just kept hearing my name over and over and over again, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And eventually, um, like that feeling, that sensation just left. I was almost in like a transcendental state, but not really. Like it was so it's hard to explain. Like if you haven't felt this, if you haven't experienced it, you really don't know. And I think it's different for everybody, but that's like my honest experience with that. And all of a sudden that feeling just left. I snapped back into reality, and it was the weirdest thing that I've ever felt in my life. I've never felt anything like it, and you know what? I am not ready to feel anything like that anytime soon. That was my first experience with the divine, and um, it was enough to shock me, kind of scare me. And I think that's what people need. I think people really need to realize the magnitude of the power that you're dealing with. And that was one specific aspect of the divine. If you're like me and you believe that everything is part of the same energy, the same entity, you have to understand that that was only the one small part. I couldn't even imagine if I was trying to like take in like the entire power. I don't even know if that's possible. But that was only one little bit of the power. So it's scary stuff. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying wait and know that you're ready. I do believe that if you're not intending to invoke a god or a goddess, then it won't happen. If just because you say, "Oh, I'm invoking la di da X goddess or god," that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna come or you're actually invoking them. You really have to have like good intention behind it, um, and really mean it and be in a certain circumstance. I really think that that's part of invoking a deity. They're not just gonna come like, hey, what's up? Well, they could, but it doesn't happen often, I find. Usually when I do ritual, I will feel like a pulsing in my chest, and my extremities occasionally. My hearing sometimes goes out when I'm in a ritual, which is really freaky. And yeah, I really get into these, I don't want to say hallucinogenic states, but more transcendental states when I'm doing ritual. And yeah, I think that's just my body connecting to the divine. I don't really know. But it's, even when you're not intending to invoke something, it can come. So you just need to be aware and not be afraid, but be cautious about what you say, what you do. But also, you know what? These are good energies. They might have attitude. Some aspects of them might be, really in your face. I know, like, working with Hecate can be quite an experience. I've never worked with that aspect of the divine before, but, I hear that it can be quite intense. So, my advice, in my opinion, is that just be careful. Be careful. Know what you're doing, and if you're just starting out, don't do it. Don't make my mistake, because you will get a huge wake-up call, and it's not fun. It really isn't fun. I had a headache for 3 days after that. Like, I felt sick after that. Just because I couldn't take it, because I wasn't prepared, because I was just so young. And I don't want something to go wrong. Like, I don't want someone to do this and accidentally, like, invoke something else. And you're vulnerable at that time. I don't think people really quite understand how vulnerable you are when that being or energy is inside of you, because you're just left there in a state of, like, meditation. And it can be really scary, especially when you snap back into reality and everything's like, whoa, shit just got a whole lot more real here. I think I'm just rambling now, but yeah. If you have any comments or any questions, I guess, feel free to leave them down there. Also, if you have any thoughts on this subject, I'd really love to hear them, because I think it's something really interesting and not discussed enough on YouTube or just in general. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will have altar videos sometime this week, as I promised in my update video. If you watch that, I will have altar videos and stuff like that, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you're all having a great week, and blessed be.